Hello, welcome to the Jessie at Home Stitchopedia. In this video I'm going to show you how to make a basic single crochet square. I'm actually going to show you how to do that in order to make a coaster, and I'm also going to show you how to make a border around it. The single crochet square can be used for many things, but in this case, as I said, I'm showing you the coaster. It's always nice when you're first learning how to crochet to be able to make some finished pieces really early on. It gives you some confidence, especially if you're teaching somebody how to crochet. It's good to be able to give them something that they can make as a finished project early on, so you don't just feel like you're learning and not making anything. So here is going to be a single crochet square, which will help with rows, and then even the border around it, which is going to help you learn how to single crochet into the edge of your stitches and how to turn corners. I am using Takai Stacy Charles cotton classic yarn. It's 100% cotton, and I like this for coasters and such because the cotton obviously wicks up liquids. The reason I like this brand so much is it's nice, it's got a nice sheen, it's pretty to look at, and it's very color fast. I don't experience the color fading or bleeding with this even if I have to wash something, so I really like that about this. Some other cottons I've used, the colors will bleed or fade when they're washed a lot, so this is a nice one for the color fastness, and it's a good thickness and everything for coasters and such. When you buy it, it comes on a hank. I don't have one wound into a hank right now, but this is what I mean by a hank. It's wound up like this, and then you have to roll it into a ball. So this is one of mine that I've rolled into a ball, and then you can see I stick the little label inside so I know what it is, and have my die lot and color number and everything on there. So this is what the label would look like for that one. Okay, and this is something you can pick up at the local yarn store or online. It is not available in your traditional craft stores. So let's get going on this coaster. To begin, you are going to chain 16. Okay, this coaster we're going to make 15 stitches across, and when you do your starting chain, you need the 15 chains for the 15 stitches plus 1 to turn for your single crochet. So we're going to start off with 15, and I don't believe I told you I'm using a size G or 4mm crochet hook. So we're going to put that right there so you can see what we're doing. We're going to chain 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, so I've shown you before in the how to single crochet video the top of your chain and the bottom of your chain. I've shown you, how to actually work into a chain now that I've dropped my hook right out of there. And I prefer to work into the bottom ridges on my chain. That's what I prefer to work into because it leaves these pretty little loops at the bottom of your work, which makes working into them later so much easier. So I'm going to turn this over, and you're going to single crochet into the second chain. So you can see this little ridge right here in front of my finger is the back ridge of the first chain from my hook. This is the back ridge of the second chain from my hook. So that is what I'm going to work into. I'm going to single crochet into the second chain from my hook, and I prefer to single crochet into the bottom loops or the back ridge, so that's what I'm doing. So bottom little ridge loop there, I'm just going to single crochet into that, and I'm going to go all the way across. I got some fuzz. All the way across, and there should be 15 single crochets if I go all the way across, since I skipped the first chain, and I made 16 chains. That means if I skip the first chain and single crochet into the rest of them, I will have 15 single crochet when I'm done. So if you're just getting started, you might want to give that a count. Actually, even at my level, I normally still count. But right now, of course, I'm talking to you instead of counting, so I'm just going to have to trust myself. So let's get to the end of this row. We're almost there, and we're just single crocheting into this bottom ridge. See, into the bottom ridge. One more, and if we were counting, that would have been 15. And you can see, here's the top of my work, but look, here's the bottom of my work. And you see how it has all those really nice little loops on there? That's why I like working into that bottom ridge, because it puts these nice loops on top, which will be a lot easier when it comes time to work around on the edge of this. So let me show you how I turn. You can chain one and then single crochet in each single crochet across, or you can just single crochet in each single crochet across. Now when I single crochet, I prefer not to do the chain ones. I tend to just turn my work and single crochet into each single crochet across. Some people get really nervous about this. If you've pulled really tightly against your crochet hook, especially if you've pulled really tightly right at the neck of it, you are going to want to loosen up that first loop a little bit, but don't loosen it up too much, because you can see, look what happens if I make my first chain with a really loose loop. You see that? That's not really pretty. So you just want it maybe a tiny bit looser than you normally would, and you just single crochet into the very first stitch, the last one you made on the previous row, and single crochet straight across. You do not need the chain one to get started. A lot of people do them, especially people who have been crocheting for many, many years, or who were taught by grandparents or even parents. But recently people have stopped doing the chain one, and I personally like that new way of doing things. I think it works nicely. Let's go to our last stitch. You may need to count the stitches on each row for a while until you get the hang of what the first stitch is and what the last stitch is. Okay, we're going to turn, and again, single crochet into that first stitch. So here is the loop that's on your hook, and here is the last stitch you made, and that's where you're going to single crochet. You're just going to put your hook right into that last stitch you made and single crochet with no worries. Okay, that's one. You're going to go all the way across all 15 stitches. So I'm going to keep working this, turning and going up and continuing rows. And when I have about, when you get to like 15 rows, because this is 15 stitches, you want to take a moment and you want to look at your work and see if it's square. Some people tend to make their single crochets a little taller, and some people make their single crochets a little shorter. In a perfect world, it would be 15 stitches and 15 rows to make a square. In my world, it tends to be 15 stitches and 16 rows, because I guess my single crochets are a little shorter than they should be. So just keep going, and once you get to about 15 rows, take a look, measure it. You want to just lay it flat, okay, which is hard to see right now. You want to just lay it flat and just measure it this way and then measure it the other way and see if it's not quite square yet. If your back and forth measurement is longer than your up and down, then you just need to keep making a few more rows until you get it to be square. So go ahead and do that until you have a square. Like I said, mine on this one turned out to be 16 rows. It was 15 stitches across, but it was 16 rows tall. So come back when you have a square. So you can see I've finished my square, and I have made 16 rows. And other than just measuring, another way to tell if you've gone far enough is to fold your piece into a triangle. So you take your corner to corner, and if when you fold it into a triangle, these two corners make points, and your edges all line up, then yes, you do have a square. If I had stopped, say here, then when I folded up my triangle, you can see I would have had all this extra on the side, which means I didn't make enough. If I had gone a couple more rows, then when I folded up my triangle, you can see how these are not points. And that would mean that I had too much. So you just fold your triangle up, and as long as you get little points on the edge and there's not either too much on one side or not enough on one side or whatever, then you have a triangle. It's a pretty easy way to figure that out without having to measure. And I mean, then you have a square. Obviously you have a triangle if you fold it and make a triangle. That was silliness. Alright, so I'm clipping my yarn. Now it's time to do our border. So let me grab my border color, and I'm going to use this brown again. What you're going to do now is switch colors, and how I like to do that is to just make your little slip knot. I tend to actually not make the slip knot, but when you're first getting started, it's nice to make the slip knot. It gives you a little stability. I tend to just loop the yarn over my hook, but for now we'll make the slip knot. Pull that loop through the loop that I already had, and then pull the loop of the first color tight. See? There we go. If you made your slip knot, you want to make sure that it's caught behind the loop. Let me show you how I normally do it without a slip knot. I just put a loop on my hook, pull it through the yellow, so I'm pulling the brown through the yellow, and then I'm going to pull the yellow tight, and now I have, sorry, pull the yellow tight, and now I have just the brown loop in place of where the yellow loop was. And yeah, you kind of have to pinch these two ends at first when you're getting started so that things don't go where you don't want them to. You don't pull your yarn out or whatever. Alright, so now what you need to do to make your border is a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet into the corner. Okay, so this is the corner space right here. You see this little, there's a little kind of hole you can make right there. That would be your corner. I am just going to insert my hook into that, and I'm going to make a single crochet, a chain 2, and then I'm going to go right into the same corner again, and I'm actually catching both of my yarn ends. I'm catching my yarn ends in there just for security's sake. There's my second single crochet. So I did a single crochet, a chain 2, a single crochet into that corner. Now I need to make 13 stitches across this side, and then I'm going to work into the corner again. So basically, if you had everything perfect and it was 15 and 15 rows, then you could put one stitch in the side of each row. I know that I had like one extra row, so somewhere along the way I'm going to have to skip the side of a row. I already did one in the side of this row for my corner, so now I'm going to go into the side of this row, and you just kind of stick your hook in there and make a single crochet. Okay, so now I'm going to work on the side of this this one. Okay, and now in the side of this one. And I'm just going to keep going, and I want to count. Alright, that was the one from my corner, so now I'm making 13 more. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I know somewhere along the way I need to kind of skip a row. I need to skip the side of one of the rows because I have one more row than I have stitches, and so I'm going to do that right around the middle. So I'm going to kind of skip one here. 7, 8, 9, 10, and I'm going to look at this and go, hey, either I'm counting wrong or I'm not putting in enough stitches, because look, I still have to put in 3 more, and that would be kind of, oh no, I guess it would kind of fit. I was at 10, right? Let's count. Well, that was my corner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so 3 more. 11, 12, 13. If you get to the end and it looks like they're all smushed together too much, you can always pull some back and try again. Sometimes it's kind of a lot of estimating. If you're doing something where you have like 100 stitches or whatever, I do recommend dividing your thing up, dividing your piece up. So 100 stitches divides nicely into quarters of 25. So I would divide, if I were putting 100 stitches, and if this were a lot bigger, I would divide this piece into quarters and put a little marker at each quarter, and then try to fit 25 into each quarter. Okay, but this was 13 stitches in here. That's a pretty small, that's a decently small space, not a lot of stitches. I will just wing that rather than dividing things up. Okay, so we have our corner and then we have our 13 stitches, and now we need to do into this corner single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. Single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, and now we're going to single crochet 13 across the top, leaving the corner open again. So single crochet 13 across the top, 1, 12, and 13. Oh, looks like I made a really tight stitch there. Okay, and now we're going to single crochet, chain 2, single crochet into the corner again. Single crochet, chain 2, single crochet. Now we're doing, remember, we did 13 across, and then on each corner we're doing a single crochet, a chain 2, and a single crochet, which is giving us actually 15 single crochets on each edge, and then a chain 2 in each corner. That's actually what our final count looks like. Right, so we have this corner done. We're going to do this corner again, and in between all of those we need another 13 stitches. So same idea as before. Okay, so let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I want to kind of skip one right around the middle here. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Okay, so again, you can see it's not really an exact science. In some places it might, you know, it's not all how do I say this? It's not really an exact science. You're getting 13 stitches in there. You did 16 rows. In my case, I did 16 rows, and I have a stitch in each corner, which takes up 2 of those rows, which leaves 14, and then I need to fit 13 stitches across the 14 rows. So you just make it work and look at it, and if it looks like all your stitches are bunched up over here and then it's really loose over here, then you go back and you work it again. It's something that you kind of get the feel for. Okay, this is definitely one of those points in crochet where you just kind of have to get the feel for it and get used to it. There's not necessarily hard and fast rules. Crochet is really an art form, and a lot of times there aren't rules in art. Okay, so now we're getting to that corner, and we're going to do what we've done in the other corners. We're going to single crochet, we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and we're going to single crochet again. Okay, and now we're going to single crochet 13 across, and there should be 13 loops left for me to go across, because remember, I already did this corner. So 13. Okay, we have our 13 stitches done, and now what we're going to do is finish this round by slip stitching into the top of the first single crochet that we made. So I'm just going underneath the top 2 loops of the first single crochet that we made and slip stitching, and that joins everything up. Now, just like with the rows, I'm not starting the round with a chain 1. I'm just going to start the round by making my first single crochet. And what I'm going to do is make same as I did before, make a single crochet, a chain 2, and a single crochet into the corner. And you can kind of see this corner hole made by the chain 2. That's what I'm going to crochet into. So I'm going to make my single crochet by putting my hook into the little chain 2 hole and making my single crochet, chain 2, and then put another single crochet into that same chain 2 corner space from before. And now I'm going to single crochet into each single crochet across, which there were actually 15. So now I'm going to single crochet 15. 1, 2, 14, 15. Okay, so now I have my 15 across and I'm back to the corner again, and I'm going to do my single crochet, chain 2, single crochet into the corner space. So I find that chain 2 hole, that is my corner space, and I single crochet, I chain 2, and I single crochet into that chain 2 hole. And now again I'm going to single crochet 15 into these 15 stitches. Single crochet, chain 2, single crochet into the corner, single crochet 15, single crochet, chain 2, single crochet into the corner, single crochet 15, and that will get me back to where I started. Okay, so just go ahead and do that. So I have made my last 15 single crochets across this last side, and that makes me meet up to where I started this round. And this is the end. So in a lot of patterns will tell you to slip stitch to the first, to the first single crochet that you made to join, just like we do when we end a round. But I'm going to show you how I like to actually do my finishing. So I'm going to cut myself a tail, make sure I leave enough to actually weave in my ends. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch this single crochet a little bit so that I don't accidentally tighten it, and just pull that loop through. Okay, I'm going to grab my yarn needle and thread it up. Okay, now see how I pulled that through? I'm now going to copycat the next loop. You see this loop right here? I'm going to copycat that. So I pulled this yarn through my end. I'm going to go right underneath here where this loop goes through. And then I'm going to turn my work over, and I'm going to go down through the top loop and down through this loop as well, where that yarn came up from before. I'm going to pull it, and I'm just going to kind of finesse it a little bit. And see how I copycatted that loop? You can't even really see where that edging, where that seam is there. Okay, and that gives you a really nice looking finished edge, as opposed to that little bump you get when you just slip stitch to join, which is fine when you're, starting another row on top of it. But since we weren't starting another row on top of it, we really want a nice pretty edge. So that's what I did there. And now I'm going to weave in my edges by kind of just going through some of the stitches. Okay, you don't want to pull it too tight and end up tightening up that little pretty little copycat stitch you did. Go through this way. I went down before, so now I'm going to go back up a little bit. And I'm going to go down, but this way a little bit. Okay, so you can see I kind of zigzagged that through. Okay, you can even kind of be crazy and go back the other way once. Okay, and I'm going to weave in the rest of these ends and clip them off, and then I'm going to show you what to do about it not laying flat. Okay? Now I have woven in all my ends, and you can see it's not really lying very flat. And that's something you might want to address. I can kind of make it lie flat, but it still kind of curls up. You see how this is a little bit flatter? I'm going to show you one way to block something that's, it's cotton, it's small, it's pretty easy to block. So I'm going to do that with a steam iron. I'm actually going to move this little thing here because this is just a piece of heavy cardboard that I've covered with fabric, and I don't want to steam my steam the cardboard. So what I do is I turn this over. I turn my piece over so I have the back facing up. When you have something larger, you might want to pin this down. But I turn it over so I have the back facing up, and I take my steam iron. And I kind of have to put it with my steam iron. I don't have one of those press buttons for the steam, but I need to buy a new one that has the press button to make the steam shoot out. So I just have to, there we go, turn it over until it decides to start steaming. It just takes a minute as long as it's hot. And now what I want to do is hover. I am not touching this. I know it's hard to tell because of the angle that you're at, but I am not touching the iron to my piece. I am hovering over top of it and just getting it really nice and steamed. And then I'm moving this out of the way, and I am patting and shaping. Okay, I'm not wiping, I'm just patting and shaping. To give it the nice little shape that I want, and then give it a couple more pats, and then maybe give it a little bit more steam again now that I have it the shape that I want. Okay. You can see, you can turn it over. You can see how much nicer it is here. Alright, and you want to know something crazy about gauge. You see these two pieces? I made them both with the same yarn, different color in the middle, but the same yarn and the same hook. But I think because I was here doing the tutorial with you, I had a looser gauge. I was just taking my time a little bit more. And you can see normally I obviously crochet a little bit tighter when I'm not chatting with you. I must crochet a little bit tighter than when I am. This is why a lot of times people say something where gauge is really important you should do in one sitting, even though sometimes that's not really possible. But look at the huge difference in gauge. And I am positive this is the same hook that I used when I made this sample yesterday. So you just, sometimes you crochet tighter. Maybe I was really stressed out yesterday. I probably was really stressed out yesterday. Don't even get me into that. But I probably was just having a stressful day yesterday. And so I crocheted tighter, and today is a little more relaxed and chatting with you, and I crocheted looser. And it's amazing. The yarn was the same and the hook was the same. I just was crocheting looser today. So that's a little interesting tidbit for you. Now, once you've blocked something like this, it is good to let it cool. Let it cool completely before you really start moving it around. When you're blocking something larger with a lot of shape to it, that's really important. I actually recommend, like I said, pinning it down is good. Making sure that whatever you're using to pin it down is not going to rust. You'll need stainless steel pins for that. T-pins are great. This is actually, you can use cork, or you can use, I can't remember the name of the stuff that I used for this, but it's kind of like what they use for those ceiling panels in school. But you can also use cork, or you can use those mats that a lot of people buy, those mats. This just happens to be a big sewing table that I use. You pin it down, steam it, and then leave it for 24 hours is your best bet for blocking. But for these tiny little coasters, you know, I just steam it and then just move it off to the side. And everything's good and hunky-dory. And you can see I actually made those coasters to go with this placemat. To go with these placemats that I had made also. So I have a nice little fall set of coasters and placemats, and you know, it's fun for if you have some company over for Thanksgiving or whatever. Alright, so there you have it. I hope you enjoyed that little tutorial on making a single crochet square and putting a border on it for something such as a coaster. Now go forth and crochet and have some fun.